Hello there, this is Marxist, and this is my 10, yes 10, Precepts of Pocket video. In this video, we're going to go over 10 basic principles on how to play Pocket and talk about some various little things that I like to see out of Pockets and what I think makes a good Pocket. So hopefully you'll find this video to be helpful. And if you're on the quest to become the next TLR, maybe this will be a good little primer on the things that you need to do. The first precept we'll talk about in this video is one that you may know about if you watched the Roamer Precepts video, and that's that you've got to go fast. As in the Roamer video, you need to have a route planned from every respawn point that will get you to anywhere else on the map as quickly and as efficiently as possible. A big problem that newer soldiers have, or relatively more inexperienced soldiers have, is that they'll take a real slow, leisurely route to every point, and that's not good because your team, when someone checks the scoreboard, will think you are there and you're going on a nice stroll through Granary Middle or something. So you need to make sure that that doesn't happen. You need to get to wherever your team is as quickly as possible. But since you're the Pocket, some other rules apply. If your medic is in tow, you need to go slow enough so that the beam never breaks, because you need to be building Uber constantly. We'll get to that one in a little bit, but your first little preview of it is here. If your medic is respawning at some point in the future, unless somebody says otherwise, it's your job to wait, because you're the Pocket. Welcome to Pocket. That also applies if the medic is respawning somewhere and no one is spawning with him. It's your job to go back and get him because you're the Pocket. So you should know the most about the medic, where he sleeps, where he eats, those sorts of things, and also when he or she is respawning. As you're moving forward in your very fast way, assuming that the medic isn't with you, make sure that you call out health pack usage, and here's why. Generally speaking, whenever you arrive on a point where your team is, you're going to be getting healed pretty quickly because meds tend to default to healing the Pocket. So, if you're devouring all the health packs on the way and someone is following you, that's jumping as well, say the Roamer or the Demo, the med's going to have to heal them and then you, whereas in general, defaulting to healing you while the other guy took all the health packs, that's fine, because the other guy's not going to need heals right away. You're the Pocket, you need your 300 health, right? So, in general, the moral of the story is, unless you're waiting on the medic or you're walking with the medic, go quickly and call out the health packs that you're using if you think someone is moving behind you, so that they know not to expect the health pack to be there, or they can tell you not to use it. Our second precept is that you are a 3-trick pony at mid. Now, I should be kind and preface this little 3-trick pony bit by saying that there are other strats you can run at mid, such as extremely passive strats, that would violate these tricks. You would know even a 4th trick, but in general, teams don't tend to opt for passive mids, and generally the audience that this video is aimed at probably wouldn't be able to utilize a passive mid appropriately. So I just wanted to add that as a disclaimer to start. But we'll go over the first trick. The first trick of Pocket at mid is to pretend that you are the Roamer. So your mid strat will essentially devolve into you and me, Mr. Roamer or Mrs. Roamer or Miss Roamer, will attack them at a certain time. The way you would orchestrate that is that the Roamer or you personally would call a side that you're going to jump, or a condition upon which you will jump. So if their demo goes into X location, we'll jump him, and so on and so forth. It's just that you and the Roamer know that you're going to bomb the same stuff, and that something will occur. Either you will call that you're bombing, or the Roamer will call that they're bombing, and you're both going to bomb. That's your first trick at mid. You're the Roamer. You're probably going to die when you do that. You just run 2 Roamers. It is possible to utilize this trick quite a lot. Mihai's Flow in particular, Season 11, was a great proponent of this strategy, and they used it quite effectively, going 15-1 in Invite in the regular season. So that worked out pretty well. Trick number 1 is a pretty good trick, as long as you can get it to work for you. The second trick that you know is that you could be the counter jumper extraordinaire. What I mean by that is at mid, your role as Pocket essentially devolves into jumping wherever the other team's soldiers jump. So if it's, say, Granary, you would wait to see what their soldiers do while being in a safe place, or at least a relatively safe place, and then you would counter jump them as soon as they rocket jump somewhere. It's also seen a lot on maps like Gully Wash, where you'll hide in the valley until their soldiers go to some location. Then you jump on them. The reason that counter jumping works, if you've never played MGE and don't know about the virtues of counter jumping, is that it always gives you, the soldier, a height advantage over the other soldiers. You're forcing them to hit an air shot on you while you are up in the sky shooting down on them. So it can work out quite well. I've also seen mids where the counter-jumping soldier will straight up air shot the other soldiers because a downwards air shot is relatively easier than an upwards air shot. The third trick that you know is that you pretend to care about your team for about 5 to 8 seconds or longer, depending on your flavor, however much you would like to fool them into believing that you care about them, and then you pretend to be the roamer. A real common example of this is, say, on a map like Badlands. You go left or you go out of the house, whatever you like to do, and you'll just chill for about 5 to 8 seconds. And what you're looking for in that strategy is you're looking to get bombed or have a scout rush. As soon as that particular player is killed, which you're there to help with, you will bomb. And the objective of your bomb at that point will come down to one of two things. If you're losing the mid, you will bomb to kill their medic. If you're winning the mid, you'll bomb to deal as much damage as humanly possible, die, and declare that you are incredible. Our third precept is that ammo management is a big deal. So what do I mean by ammo management in the pocket? Don't use all of your rockets spamming long range. It's a lot like Ulti-Duo. If you spam all your rockets right at the start of the Ulti-Duo fight, the other soldier can get very close to you and deal a lot of damage as you have to reload. So you need to make sure that you resist the temptation to waste a lot of rockets spamming long range, unless it's absolutely essential that you do so. For example, you're trying to get an Uber to pop, or their medic's really hurt and they're running out of a doorway and you try to put rockets in the way. Those are little situations where you can violate this little rule, but in general, don't spam all your rockets long range. It ties into the next little bit of never ever spam 4 rockets in a row. Just don't do it. If you're spamming a choke or doing anything like that, try and keep at least 1 rocket in the gun, because you never know what's going to happen, and if you're reloading while your medic gets attacked, it's your fault that your medic is now probably dead. Grab every single ammo kit or dropped weapon you find, even if you're only missing 2 rockets out of your magazine or your repertoire of rockets. You can also pick up dropped weapons pretty easily by shooting them. Physics still act upon them, so you can shoot them closer to you if you don't want to walk way out of your way to go pick up a dead scout's scattergun. Make sure that you always have as many rockets as possible, because you never know when you may end up having to hold for a long period of time and not really be able to go and get ammo at your leisure. The only time where you shoot all your rockets is when something is very close to you, or when everything is very close to you, such as when you've bombed. Precept number 4 is that you are the actual scout. This is a relatively simple concept that many pockets fail to realize or utilize. Because you have 300 health most of the time, you have more health than 5 players on the other team. Thus, you are best suited to figuring out where they are and what they're doing. Your team should never ever have to push into something without you telling them where it is. Because you have 300 health and you can peek doors, you can peek chokes, you can figure out where they are, what they're doing, what kind of hold they have. All of that information comes from you. You may have your scouts do it, you may have your roamer do it, but at the end of the day, you're making those players take unnecessary risks because they don't have the health that you do. It's really easy for you to peek out somewhere and look at something. If you get quick-scoped by a sniper, you survive because you have 300 health. He has to hit you with a pretty highly charged headshot to kill you. You have a tremendous amount of ability to wander around and peek doors with your medic to figure out where the other team is. You're the eyes of your team because of your health. You're the best scout that your team has as far as literal scouting. So you should utilize that capability. If you like to be quiet and you don't like to talk, you need to reconsider which class you're playing, because this is an absolutely essential part of playing Pocket. Precept number 5 is to check all the doors and spots. Most pushes occur very quickly, and Pockets tend to overlook this because they get stressed out and they want to go fast. While going fast is nice, this is going to prevent all sorts of accidents and game-ruining occurrences. When you're going to push through a door, you need to check it with rockets. Every single door you go through, if the other team has a demo man alive, you need to check it. You never know how fast a demo may be. You need to make sure that you check every single door you go through. If your medic dies or drops to a sticky trap at any time, it is your fault. It's your job to deal with that. If there's a sticky trap further down range, you need to deal with that. The reason why you end up having that job is because in general, the other classes are either too weak to be able to stand around and deal with it, a trap that is, or they don't have the weapons to do it. A roamer can throw stickies around, but he can't really get rid of them afterwards. A scout can discharge stickies, but they don't have the health to really stand around and deal with that. And again, the demo has one gun that can toss things around, and the medic basically has to uber saw or needle the stickies out of the way. You need to take care of that. If you jump in and you see a forward sticky trap, toss the stickies around so that your team has at least some inkling that they're there. Just calling that they're there is not good enough, because chances are the players aren't going to be able to deal with it, and you're going to go too far because you're now pushed out and the team is dealing with the sticky trap if it's in their way. So you need to clear it out of the way or you're going to get baited really hard. Then, when you push in, the angle that you approach an attack or a push should check all of the common hiding spots. It telegraphs how you're going to push if another team sees you doing it a lot, but generally when you go in, it's just better in every imaginable way to push in such a way that you immediately check all the common spots, like the spot above the doorway on Gullywash 2nd, or the spot above the sewer door in Process, or the spot in the house on Badlands where roamers tend to hide, or where scouts or demos can hide as well, I suppose. But you need to be able to check all of that when you're going to push into that area. That's your job to deal with. And again, it ties into the previous precept that you're the best scout on the team. You need to be the eyes of your team when you go there, and it's your job to take care of all of this stuff that could stop or mess up a push. Our 6th precept is simply the shotgun. Use it. Famously in Mortal Kombat and other games like it, you have a move called a finishing move. Your fatality, or whatever you want to call it, ought to be your shotgun. Whenever you're going to kill a target or you know that you've dealt enough damage that they should be pretty hurt, your shotgun should be the weapon you use to finish that kill, so as to save rockets. If you're using your rockets to get all of your kills, it's meaning that you're not able to continue fighting as soon as you normally would. Because you can shoot several shotgun shots, not reload them, and then continue fighting in large sort of transitional fights or other sorts of engagements of that kind. Using your shotgun as an anti-aircraft gun in the same way that a scout shoots jumping targets is also quite effective and should be considered. Yeah, air shots are really cool with your rocket, but a shotgun can totally change the trajectory of a jump. And that's quite helpful. If you're on Spire and you're playing MGE sometime and you want someone to really hate you, every time they jump you should shotgun them. They will not like you, and they will not be your friend afterwards, but you could see its potential applications in a match situation. Plus, it saves rockets. Shotgun versus scout is a very important little concept because some scouts like to jump off of different little bits on the map and different props and so on, and they're hard to hit. If you've played enough to know that a scout is in a spot that you're going to have trouble hitting with a rocket, use your shotgun. It's just better that way. Also, generally speaking, if you hit a scout with a good rocket, you should pretty much just use your shotgun the rest of the time, unless there are a whole bunch of other people standing around the scout that you could damage as well with rockets. And then shotgunning versus groups. Generally speaking, even if you're going to use your fatality move on someone, it's best not to use your shotgun there, just to continue dealing damage to the group. So if you're being attacked by more than one target, you don't get to use your cool fatality. You've generally got to use your rockets there, just to try and put out as much DPM as you can, due to the threat that more than one player poses. Or if you're attacking into a large group, unless you know for a fact that the other people are backing up and that shotgun kill you're about to get will only take 1 or 2 shots to get. So in general, use the shotgun as your fatality move to finish kills so as to save rockets, to deny jumpers in a way that's a lot easier than hitting them with a rocket, to kill scouts that like to jump around on stuff and are hard to hit with rockets, thus saving you rockets and also killing the scout much more quickly. And don't really use the shotgun so much when you're being attacked by a large number of people. Precept number 7 is build Uber, always. And perhaps one of your more important jobs is building Uber, of course. If you're under 285 HP, you are building Uber. Good job. In your attempts to build Uber, never shoot yourself more than 1 time in succession. You only need to go under 285 to get your medic building at the highest possible Uber charge rate. So you don't really need to shoot yourself 1 billion times. Shooting yourself a bunch of times makes you incredibly vulnerable in that A, you have to reload, and B, you're really hurt, so something bad could happen to you and you could die. You don't want that in your life. Just shoot yourself 1 time. If you end up going above the charge rate, just shoot yourself again shortly thereafter. Don't worry about taking yourself down to 90 health so as to build. You don't need to do it. It's not going to make the Uber build any faster. And don't build with a scout. Some people will tell you different things, and this is sort of a Marxist thing, and it's my Precepts video, so I get to say what I want. Only build with a scout if A, you need ammo, and so you're going to get ammo, or B, you're dead and can't build. The reason why building with a scout is inefficient and not the best thing to do is that normally defending, you have 5 players with their stock amount of health, and 1 player with 300 health. If you choose to build with a scout, you have 5 players with a stock amount of health and 1 player with not anywhere close to 300 health. It hurts you more because as a soldier building, if you go, I believe they are pushing, all you have to do is not shoot yourself and you have 300 health. You should be building that close to the margin. But if you instead are building with a scout and they push, you've got a soldier that isn't buffed, another soldier that isn't buffed, and a scout that likely can't see very much. So don't do it. Build with your pocket. It's the best way to go. If your medic doesn't have Uber, you should be building. If you feel like you might waste rockets and you know the other team is spamming, walk into some spam. That's the cheap way of building, and it can work quite well for you. Precept number 7 is that you are the axis of advance. What I mean by axis of advance is something that people used to talk about a lot in the past, where they would say, oh, our scout is our initiator, our roamer is our initiator. I don't really like that term because it's the pocket. The pocket ought to be your initiator. Why? Because he has the most health. You have the most health. So you should go in first because you have the most health. You need to, while you're going in first, communicate how you're doing. Are you doing really badly? Are you about to die? Should you not push as a result? Should you continue pushing? Do you feel like you're not being supported enough? Do you need to push faster? These are the kinds of things that you, as the pocket, need to communicate, and you're the only one that can do it. Again, if you don't like doing that, play roamer. If you're pushing, if you are not pushing, nobody's pushing, because you are the one with 300 health. You get to choose when to start fighting. A lot of people believe that flanks ought to sort of just create kills out of their own, and that's a silly thing to do. You're making unbuffed players fight potentially other buffed players. You, being the pocket, get to go there and see what to do. Also, I apologize for all the Steam messages in this video, but every time I try to record, somebody messages me, so it gets put through and I can't remove it. But if you are a pocket, you rotate around to where you want to fight and where you want to get your picks because you have 300 health. So many teams want the pocket soldier to stay at choke while the medic rotates around. Don't do that. You're the one with 300 health. You're the one that gets to pick when the fights start and when things happen. Precept number 9 is have good Uber versus Uber fights. Now, how do you have good Uber versus Uber engagements? We're going to talk about the offensive case first. Firstly, you should push in with a good circumstantial advantage. So, you have gotten a kill. You're pushing off of numbers advantage because we're assuming the other team still has Uber, right? So, as you solo Uber, it's solo Uber because this is your time, your Uber. You get all the Uber, you get all the heals, nobody else gets involved, it's you. If anybody else tries to take your Uber away from them, they're hurting you. They are making your job harder. You should make them stop. While soloing, you have 2 options. You can get 2 kills. So say their medic's standing by a sentry gun guarded by a pyro. You're never going to force that guy. So get 2 kills instead. Just go for 2 kills. You'll ideally in those circumstances have around a 3-player advantage. And even if they counter Uber you, you'll be okay, right? You can kite 3 players long enough for their Uber not to really get any kills and then still win the fight. Or, the simpler option, you pop your Uber to pop their Uber. When you do that, you need to explain to your team how it's going. If you go to force their Uber and it takes you a long time to do so, your push is over. You're done pushing for the time being. You need to either try and get kills somewhere off by yourself and tell your medic to run away, or try to tell your medic that you are staying with them and that you're going to try to get out. Now, importantly, if you're going to try to get out, you must stay behind or in front of, depending which way your medic's facing. You must stay between the other team and your medic, so that worst case scenario, your medic will get out. Do not let your medic be the one between you and the other team. You're baiting him or her, and you will have a dead medic in reply, and that's much worse than you being dead. If the Uber is defensive, everyone needs to leave. This is your time. If you lose a scout on the flank and you know they're going to Uber in on you, everyone needs to get away from you because this is your Uber. Uber versus Uber, Ubers are yours. They're all yours. That's what you get as a little special reward for being the Pocket. And in a defensive Uber, ideally no one else on your team should take damage, and you get to just run at their team and get as much damage out as possible. If you get a good defensive Uber and you're good at managing them, you will win almost single-handedly for your team many, many rounds. Unless other players don't leave you alone and want part of your Uber, then they're making your job too hard, and you need to tell them to kindly leave because this is your Uber. Number 10 is have good Uber versus no Uber fights. Uber versus no Uber fights are an entirely different animal altogether. For you as the Pocket, it's time to share, with at least one other person, preferably two. You need to have a bunch of people pushing through to help you, because in a Uber versus no Uber, you must either A, kill their medic, or B, secure 2 frags. Killing their medic can often be hard, especially against a good team that will kite your push effectively. So you need to get 2 frags. The easiest way is to have 2 helpers, or at least one other helper. If you're noticing towards the end of the Uber that you've not managed to get 2 kills, you need to immediately take a defensive position because you have made a mistake. Your Uber was not good enough, and they're going to push back in on you shortly, either with Uber or not, depending on how brave they are or how fast you're capping the point. You need to take a defensive position if you don't get 2 kills or kill their medic. So thank you for watching. This has been 10 Precepts of Pocket. I'm going to put up an annotation here to link you to another video specifically about Ubers for Medic and for Pocket, both from their perspective, because the last 2 precepts really play into that, and it'll give you some visual examples of what I mean and the importance of some of the concepts that I touched on. Anyhow, until next time.